Hi, I'm Paul Beckwith. I study abrupt climate change at the University of Ottawa for my towards my thesis work. I also teach climatology, meteorology as part-time professor. So basically, I look at big picture things to do with the climate and the interactions between the different elements in the climate system. But today I'm going to talk about something a little bit different that's directly related, and that is, food supply, global food supply. I think the risk to the global food system is very, very high, and I'll talk about some of the reasons why I think that is the case. So what we have here is this is a graph that let me zoom in a bit better here. Okay, this is the UN Food and Agricultural Office has done they have a food price index, and basically this graph was generated by David Tattershall, who I'm with Arctic Methane Emergency Group, and David, we do stuff with him, and he has generated a report recently, and this graph is part of his report. So what it's basically showing is the food price index from 2004 to 2020, and when this food price index passes this level of about 210, there tends to be problems. So we'll call this a crisis level. So it was very low, and then it spiked up here, peaking around just after 2008, and then dropped back down, and then had an even higher peak in about 2011. And then it's tapered off, and it's starting to push up above the crisis level. Now, what happened in the 2008 spike? What causes these spikes? Well, there's weather-driven crop failures, changes in market demand and supply. If there's panic in the oil markets, high oil prices, that will drive up the food price index. Speculation, financial mechanisms like commodity speculation or derivative hedging can cause large changes in this index. We know that a lot of corn in the U.S. is converted to biofuels. In other places, Brazil, it's sugar that's converted. So things that we grow that would have been food before, some of it is going to fuels. Also feedstock demand, livestock, and chemical feedstocks. So what happened when we had these spikes here is we had world food riots in many, many different countries. So this is listing the countries and the number of riots in different countries. So many, many different countries around the world that are marginal, have marginal food supply, have low per capita incomes, so large fractions of a person's income is going to food. There's lots of problems there when the food price index goes up. So there were world food riots then. And then in 2011, of course, what caused it to go up there? Well, we had the U.S. Financial crisis. We had oil prices going up. We had the housing defaults, and there was lots of speculation and hedging and so on. A lot of uncertainty that was driving it up. What happened here is, we pushed up above, and we had the Arab Spring events. We had many, many more food riot events here. There's nothing that will get people out into the street to riot more than being hungry, more than food prices are too high, food can't be afforded, people go out into the streets and riot. So we had that here, and we're pushing above this crisis level once again. So what does all this mean? I will show you a different graph. Let me close this one and bring this one up. Okay, so this is, you always have to keep in mind the world population pressures. So what we have here is, this is millions of people along here, and this is the year. So the blue line, we're right here. We're just over 7 billion people right now in the planet. Keep in mind that during the previous major El Nino of 98, you know, the population was we had about 1 billion fewer people on the planet. These are some of the projections, the UN projections, low, you know, peaking here at about 8 billion and dropping, or stabilizing at about 10 billion by 2100, or just going up. So these are 3 different projections, but these projections, they never, you know, if there's a major food disruption from climate change, that will change the equation quite quickly of this type of curve. If you want to look at the growth rate of population, this is what we have for the growth rate. So, you know, here we are here, the growth rate of the global population is about 1% a year. You know, we maxed out at almost 2.2% a year in the 60s. You know, we've had some fluctuation. You know, the trend is down. You know, as long as this is positive, you know, when you have a percentage growth rate, like, you know, right now it's 1% per year, you have exponential growth in the population. So this rate is projected to go down, but again, these demographic projections don't incorporate abrupt events. So what's happening later this year? Well, this is showing, this is an index that goes very negative when there's a strong El Nino. So you can see, you know, in 98 there was a strong El Nino, and it affected crops globally, and then there's been some smaller ones, and the ocean is very warm, and it looks like there's about a 75% chance of one coming up the end of this summer, almost, you know, a sure bet this year. So we're expecting a strong El Nino. So what sort of thing can that do? I'll just bring back the plot here of the food prices, the food price index, because I'll refer to it. So I'm going to go over here now to some of you know, report that David's Watershell has put together with his group Hope and Cope. Hope or Cope. So what David is saying is that there's a very high risk of food insecurity either later on this year or next year. So he discusses the graph. Okay, so on April of this year, the food price index reached 212.8. The Complex Systems Institute, they give 210 as the level that you have to worry, so we're just bumping it. But what's happening? Well, we know that we're getting extreme weather events around the world. Okay, the greenhouse gases are high, the Arctic amplification is large, it's warming much quicker, the jet streams are changing location and nature. So we're getting increases in frequency, intensity, duration of extreme weather events, and they're happening in areas that we're not used to. So if we look at how that's affecting food globally, so adverse weather in South America, Brazil reduces forecasts. The winter wheat crop in the US has been downgraded. We have the continuing drought in California, which is the breadbasket for vegetables in the US. So we're having problems with that. The Chinese winter wheat crop was low last year. There was a shortfall of 20 million tons. Now it's expected to be 3.5% larger than last year. But that's the official line, but that's being questioned. So there's issues. You know, also Ukraine is the breadbasket of Russia, and of course we know the unrest that's happening in the Ukraine. So just some other facts here. You know, it's not just in. So, you know, 2010, 1.22 billion worldwide were existing on less than $1.25 a day. So that's 17.4% of the world. The next tier, less than $2 a day, the number goes up to 34% of the world. And even in the US, there's about 50 million Americans on food stamps, and the drought's already affecting that. Now, in the Middle East, 69 million people, Middle East, North Africa, they exist on less than $2 a day, okay? And we know what's happening in countries like Iraq at the moment, all of the unrest there. I mean, what we're seeing is globally, we're seeing a lot more unrest as this food price index goes up. You know, of course, the El Nino events that's coming up, you know, it could really, I mean, what is going to cause a tipping point in human behavior on climate change? The sea ice causing more and more extreme weather, sea ice decline in the Arctic causing more and more extreme weather, especially issues with food, and you know, the progression of the food price index. Those they put extremely large risks on the global system. So I don't know, just an anecdote, but locally, you know, in Canada, we're seeing much less distinction between the police forces and the military. The police forces are becoming increasingly militarized. I know it's happening in Canada. I know it's happening big time in the U.S. I know it's happening around the world, because whenever you see some sort of protest, the police come out in force with riot shields, masks, gears, water cannons, everything else. I mean, you can have you know, a bunch of grandmothers protesting in Canada, and you know, the police come out in force with shields, and I mean, they look like stormtroopers in Star Wars. So I think what's happening is, you know, a lot of governments are becoming extremely concerned about this, but they're not communicating that to a lot of the public. Anyway, I'll stop there for today. Thank you.